So instead of splitting up the Royal Rumble splitting up the Royal Rumble news and saving this for the end, I'm gonna get to this first and then get to the Royal Rumble news second. Roman Reigns appeared on Jimmy Kimmel, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Kimmel to hype up the Royal Rumble, and of course Kimmel asked about The Rock, and Roman Reigns cleared up any estimation of how The Rock could possibly not be fit to compete in a WrestleMania match, basically explaining that there's a difference between being in physical condition, peak physical condition like The Rock is, and being able to compete in a WWE ring and take bumps and do what the wrestlers do, especially in a main event match. And, basically that's what it is. So Roman explained why how The Rock could say that he would not be able to get into in-ring shape between now and WrestleMania, with people looking at how in shape The Rock is and wondering how that could be possible. And I think Roman did a good job from a wrestler's perspective of explaining that to non-wrestling fans, which I think a lot of the people that watch Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show probably are not the ideal wrestling fans. Excuse me. Or the expected wrestling fans, I guess you could say. But with that being said, do I think we see The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? No, I do not think we see The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. At this point, I would be surprised and disappointed to a degree if that was the case, because I think the ideal situation would be saving that match until after Roman drops the title, because WrestleMania is designed for the world champion to fight the winner of the Royal Rumble, and not for the world champion to fight in I don't even know if you could call The Rock a semi-active wrestler, because I don't remember the last time The Rock competed in an actual match, so I don't really know what you call The Rock now. But I don't think... I'm not saying WrestleMania is not the place for The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I'm just saying with Roman as the champion, unless you're going to have Roman compete both nights, you got to keep that in mind, because people want to see Roman drop the title at this point to either Sami or Cody, and not just have him fight The Rock. So you have to keep that in mind, in my opinion, and that's all I'm saying. From a business standpoint, they don't want to just see Roman versus The Rock for the world title, especially considering the fact that Brock Lesnar won the Royal Rumble last year and fought Roman Reigns. In my opinion, and from a fan perspective, you need to have somebody win the men's Royal Rumble that is capable of taking the title away from Roman Reigns, because you need to do something that takes that sour taste out of our mouths that the Royal Rumble last year left in it, because of how crappy last year's Royal Rumble was. But speaking of this year's Royal Rumble, let's get to some of the rumors. Starting with, not really a rumor, but how, I guess, serious they're taking the Royal Rumble, where they had producers come in and help, that being Jason Cade. Jason Cade is not somebody who I really know, but he has been everywhere and anywhere, as the article said, I believe from Fightful, that the WWE is having independent wrestlers who have a ton of experience come in and help with production for the Rumble, as Jason Cade is a friend of Natty's and TJ's. So he's likely probably going to assist TJ with, I believe, the Women's Royal Rumble. And it is very, Jason Cade coming in is similar to Dave Finlay coming in and helping last year. But the difference between this year and last year is the roster is not as depleted, specifically the women's roster is not as depleted as it was last year for the Royal Rumble. So WWE is very comfortable and very confident in leading on NXT this year and not having a crap ton of surprises for the women's division in the Women's Royal Rumble this year, like they did last year. Which is good, because I'm not saying I don't like the surprises for the Royal Rumble for the non-roster people, but there's a difference between the non-roster people being the main culprits for the surprises and contracted talent that work for the company being those who are the ones that you have as the surprises. Because at least in that case, especially for people that might be getting called up, like a Gigi Dolan or a Jesse Jane, people that may be getting called up, it gives them the opportunity to be featured on the main roster for a cup of coffee, like we saw with Andrade in the Royal Rumble, like Adam Cole had for his place in the Royal Rumble, and a smattering of others over the years since NXT has become a thing, that they have gotten their opportunity to be featured, to make their main roster debut in the Royal Rumble, and get a cup of coffee on the main roster before being sent back down. But it gives the main roster fans the opportunity to see talent that they don't normally see, because even though WWE may not believe this, a lot of fans don't watch NXT. Not everybody watches NXT. Not everybody watches everything wrestling just because it's wrestling. But as I mentioned in the Royal Rumble video, WWE is not going the route that they normally go as far as surprises, as they're going the route for non-traditional surprises. And I think I mentioned this in a previous news video. I think that to mean that WWE is going more likely going the route of an MVP type, where MVP came and he came back for the Rumble and is still with the company today. So I think that is more likely what the WWE is going for, where they have no problem bringing people in for a surprise, but they want it to be people that they're going to keep around rather than people that are going to come back for the Rumble and then disappear right after. Which I don't have a problem with, and I completely understand the logic of why they want to do that. Just let it be people that will assist the roster and not people like Tatanka. No offense to Tatanka, but like more that standpoint of just somebody to fill up the roster. Like if Tatanka came back and did stuff like he did when he first debuted, or back in the 90s when he was an active wrestler, then that would have been something else. But I don't know how much depth WWE needs at this point right now, is what I'm saying. They don't necessarily need depth. They need somebody that gets people's attention. Because if you need depth, if you wanted depth and people just to, a warm body to fill out the spot, that's what NXT's for, in my opinion. Or a legend. Which, Tatanka. But Tatanka, and in that situation, no offense to Tatanka, but in that situation, Tatanka was not a legend. He came back and stayed on the roster. Like, specifically for that Rumble, I believe Goldust also made his return and stayed on the roster. So that's a little bit different than the old returns like we used to see with Jim Duggan, or the year when Jimmy Snuka and Roddy Piper were in the Rumble. I believe that was 2008. So, more like MVP and less like Jimmy Snuka and Roddy Piper. You know what I mean? But as I also mentioned in the Rumble, Brock Lesnar declared for the Rumble on SmackDown. So Brock Lesnar's in the Rumble, very likely to further his feud with Bobby Lashley. Mandy Rose liked a tweet regarding Royal Rumble surprises, an article written about Royal Rumble surprises where Mandy Rose was mentioned, and Mandy Rose acknowledged it and is getting people talking. I don't think Mandy Rose will be making her return. I think it's just Mandy Rose's way of keeping herself in the news and keeping people wondering. If she does, good on her. The other, I mentioned it a few weeks ago, Chelsea Green is likely to return tonight as she signed back with the company a few months ago and has been just waiting to debut. The Royal Rumble is a perfect place for that. The interesting part is Matt Cardona has also been rumored to be somebody that could be returning tonight for the Royal Rumble. If that is the case, I do hope Matt stuck to his guns and returns as Matt Cardona and not Zack Ryder. Or if he does return as Zack Ryder, he comes back as Zack Ryder, but with the personality of Matt Cardona, not the personality of Zack Ryder. If that makes sense. I would love to see Matt back in the WWE. I would love to see Chelsea Green back in WWE and get an official run. The interesting part is that there have been rumors that The Rock and Austin could be at the Royal Rumble tonight. I mean, there's been rumors for the last couple of months that The Rock could be at the Royal Rumble tonight. But there's rumors of Austin being at the Rumble tonight. And there are some that even think that Austin could be in the Royal Rumble. I honestly don't know what to think of that. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know. I mean, if Austin is in the Rumble, could I see him being a legend and having that be how they set up a WrestleMania match for Steve Austin? Yeah, I could see that, yeah. Would, if Austin wins and then they go with The Rock versus Roman, would that be enough to get people to not talk about this and talk about that? Yes, in my opinion, it would. Because I don't think anybody would have expected to see Steve Austin in a Royal Rumble ever again. So this is an intriguing part, and I wonder, do we know if The Rock and Austin are there? Well, Austin is from Victoria, Texas, so the idea of him being there is not out of the ordinary. The idea of The Rock being there, maybe a little bit. But to quote Matt Cardona, when he was asked about being at the Rumble, he said something to the effect of, being in San Antonio the night before the Rumble, what am I, a mark? Something to that effect. So there's a reason why this time of year is the most talked about time of year for WWE, because there are so many questions and not a lot of answers. But tonight is when we get those answers. Tonight is the Royal Rumble, and as Michael Cole will say when the show starts, tonight is when the road to WrestleMania begins. So if you're not paying attention to the Rumble tonight, either watching it or looking at the results, turn by turn like I'm going to be, either way, the Royal Rumble is tonight. So let's get started with the road to WrestleMania. I'm done for the day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Enjoy the Royal Rumble tonight.